This place is home for me. It is safe, peaceful, thought-provoking, but at the same time, calming and mind-clearing. In my If You Need Me blog post, I talk about my favorite place, this place. Whenever I think of the environment, of nature, of being outside, the first place that comes to mind is this place. This is where I feel connected to the environment, where I feel the most eco-literate, and where I feel most connected to my environmental identity. When looking back at my journal entries, I noticed that at the start, I felt as though I needed to do so much in one journal entry. I tried to overcomplicate things and overthink what I was trying to post. In my Eco What blog post, I created a quite complex entry cluttered with words, images, and symbolism. At the time, I felt as though this is what I was supposed to do, and this is what my professor wanted. In this blog post, I also tried to explain why I created this and what I intended with the creative journal, rather than extending beyond the creative journal. For this, I should have gone beyond what I had been drilled with over the years and focus on the process, as Capra suggests, rather than the product that I was trying to create. In my future classroom, I want to be able to share with my students that we can focus on building relationships with people and the world around us in many ways while focusing on the quality of our lives and not the quantity of material things that we own. With this, I realized that there were more meaningful ways to show what I was feeling, thinking, and learning. I was focused on the end rather than how I got to that point. In the following creative journals, I started to focus on my feelings at the time and tried to do the same with my blog posts. I wanted them to become more meaningful and reflective of myself rather than what I thought I was supposed to be doing. While on this nature walk, I can't help but recall my Can You Nature Walk the Wilderness Talk blog post. I can hear Newberry's words. The idea here is to travel with a sense of humility rather than entitlement. I'm also having flashbacks to our class conversation about being thankful. How do I want to say I'm thankful for being on this land? Who would I be thankful to? This land is Treaty 2 land, and before this class, I never would have actually thought of this land in that way. My father purchased the land, so to think of this as anything but would have been strange to me. Our Euro-Western ways have us thinking in terms of ownership. Throughout all of my blog posts, I noticed the theme of being hesitant. I mentioned this in a few posts, and I also talk about not really wanting to share about certain things. I think this goes back to my persistent need to always be right, to have the right answer, and to get the best marks. I'm starting to get to a point where I'm able to accept that there's not always one right answer. A meaningful connection to this is the embodiment exercise we performed in class related to the Coyote and Raven reading, where Eilish and I chose to perform a piece about not getting a straight answer. I talked about this in my In the Middle of Things blog post, and I also talked about there being no such thing as one specific, perfect environmental educator or one way to teach environmental education. For me, environmental education is about experience and being part of something. During this whole class, I felt as though I was part of something, a community. Our group discussions were enlightening, and I felt as though I were in a safe place to share and question things. I felt as though our small group projects were the same. I was with groups who were able to be open to my ideas, be supportive, and be hardworking. Throughout my action learning project, I was able to work with one of my closest friends who I share a lot in common with. We also shared an idea of an agriculture-related project, which turned out to be a great adventure for us. One thing I noticed while doing this project is that I tend to make excuses when things start to get hard. I mentioned in my Learning Through Action blog post that by challenging these excuses and forcing myself to move past them, I was able to come to the conclusion that these were trivial and poor excuses that can be moved past. This also opened up my ideas about the rest of my life. What else have I been making excuses for? What else do we make excuses for as a society? I personally make excuses out of convenience and when things seem as though they are going to be difficult. I think that this is the same for society. We live in a place where people want constant gratification and want to take the easy way out. How can we change this as a society? In what ways can we involve students in learning and bringing about change? Also, how do we do this without creating ecophobia. I become overwhelmed when I think about environmental issues, so I cannot even imagine how that might feel for a child. Perhaps the way to combat this is to put students in charge of their learning. In this way, students might be able to handle what they are intending to take on. I have found that through inquiry, students are able to focus their learning around what they would like to know. Inquiry can take a lot of work to prepare, but in this way, students are in control of what they are learning, and this learning becomes more authentic. I did find some struggles with the process of creating an inquiry unit in this class. We sometimes found struggles with meeting times. At this point in our university career, we had group projects for many classes and we had busy schedules beyond our university lives as well. Technology became a fourth member of our group through Google Docs and Facebook chat. We were able to stay in touch and work on our project while not being in the same place. There were times when we started to rely on this too much and the plans just became to meet at the document. This was not really as effective and we were not able to fully follow each other's thoughts. We realized that this was an obstacle and we worked harder to be able to meet in person. My hope in the future is that all people would have a place of their own where they feel that they can become connected to the earth. Through these projects in this class, I noticed that we use technology quite a bit, and in my life I use technology more than I should. In my future classroom, I want to ensure that students have the skills to know when to turn technology off and head outside. I want to try to incorporate going outside as much as I can in my classroom. This is important to me because I feel that people do not appreciate the outdoors as much as I do, and have since I was a child. This nature walk has connected me to many memories of my childhood and wonderful times I've had here and other places. This place connects me to the eco-literate person that I strive to be. It makes me want to encourage my students to find a special place of their own. The most personal and thought-provoking blog post I created was my If You Need Me blog post. This post shows who I am and who I want to be. In times of stress or struggle, I found myself going to the same place, whether it be in person or simply in my mind. The sound of the creek flowing seems to wash away everything else and I feel whole again. Any of the things that have been seeming to clutter my mind wash down the creek, at least for a little while, and I can simply just be. On this walk, I cannot help but think of not only the last 4 months that I spent in this course, but also the past 4 years that I have spent in university. I have changed, grown, learned, and experienced so much in my educational journey. I'm so excited to see where my life may take me, but for now, I'm just going to celebrate my accomplishment. So if you need me, this is where I'll be.